Welcome back to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast, a show all about inspiring smart, busy women to put their happiness at the top of their to-do list. Join your host and life coach, Dion Thompson, as she chats with amazing women who have figured out how to make their happiness a priority, and more importantly, what it's really like to go from hot mess to awesomeness. And now, on with the show.
Hello, everybody. This is Dion Thompson, your host of the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast. I am kind of all fluttery right now. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, then guess what? We do a dance party before we jump on here. If you've been listening for a while, then you know that I'm usually pretty glowy and sweaty at this point. And right now I am having kind of like a physical response, which is really awesome. So there's this, some people may be familiar with this idea of like synesthetes. So people that have like synesthesia. I wouldn't say that I have synesthesia, but I do feel music, and such that it feels like my skin is like on fire and I cry and things happen. And today I was like, we were dancing to Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over. And I'm like, I have my flutter in my chest, and this big feeling came, and it was pretty awesome. So I just want to shout out to Steph because it was your pick, and it was obviously something I needed to feel today.
Hey, that is a powerful song.
Yes. And all the songs were great. A little Tiffany to bring us back to when we were like, not even born yet. And and yeah, the Spice Girls, which, rounded that out beautifully, I think, as far as genres go. So thank you. So huge welcome to my guest, Steph Gendron. And she is the owner, operator, superstar of Georgia-based School of Dance, and where my children get to go and learn beautiful, fabulous things about movement. And I don't have an official bio, but I just wanted to share a couple of my thoughts about how I sense you. You're a relatively private person. You're not out there on social. We were talking earlier about the lack of selfies on your feed. There are people in my life that I'm super grateful for because they offer my children pieces, joy, opportunities that I myself am not in a position to do. And I'm not just talking about dance, but I'm thinking back to a time when my oldest Addie was, I took her to a friend of mine who was a babysitter. Didn't really need a babysitter, but I personally needed space. And she is the kind of person that was just put on this planet to offer that kind of care for young ones. And I've seen you work, and I'm just in awe of how you hold that space for each of those children for hours on end, day after day, month after month. And it is an absolute joy to behold. And I'm super grateful that you agreed to come and chat with me today. I'm extra excited because you are part of my world, part of my community. I get to like see you whenever, now that the COVID world is opening up. And so thank you for all that you do, and the joy that you, I know, bring thousands of small children and adults everywhere. So
thank you. That means a lot. It takes a village.
Yes.
And that's what I always try to say with my kids. Like, it's a village. So I feel so lucky to be part of a village for young kids, for my teenagers, and for my families. And I'm so grateful for all the people that are part of that village for my kids. So I always feel like it's so cool to see these kids and meet them and be a little part of their story. Right? I'm very, very lucky.
And it's awesome that you sort of framed it like that, to be part of their story, because I'm such a huge, oh my goodness, I'm very warm here. I'm such a huge fan, advocate, or the way that I see the world is really through this idea of the narrative that we choose and that we walk through in life. And often, we perceive the story of our lives to be fairly linear, and we kind of piece it all together, one piece in front of the other. Yet what's truly happening is there's these multiple influences, like you said, like a village, just these pieces that are coming in. And so for the children, for all of us, we get to pick and choose the gold. We get to, it isn't just, this is it, this is all I have, this is the only thing that's happened today, or even this week or this month or this year, that there's so many different influences that we get to align ourselves with if that feels right. And it's just such a powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And how like all those pieces together are what shape, not one individual thing, right? So
Right.
I find it so interesting. As you add more things, it just continues to evolve, right? And
Yeah.
it's neat to see it in our kids and neat to look back and see what influenced us along the way too.
Yes. Like the Spice Girls and Tiffany and New Kids on
Yeah.
the Block.
Yes, you got it. Those are great influencers. But it's, you know, part of your story, right? And how you like what you were drawn to and the confidence it gave you. And yeah, the nostalgia is kind of fun too.
Yeah. So speaking of story, I'm very eager to hear a little bit about your journey. I know probably about this much, and if you can't see me, I'm like making a really like teeny tiny figure. And I'm excited to hear about the journey that brought you to in what I and what us in the community perceive as a great successful sort of cornerstone of our community. And what I know about most people's journeys is there's usually a big kind of blip somewhere along the way that makes you go, shit. And then you pivot or you align or whatever you want to call it. So please let us know a little bit more about what brought you to this amazing space.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Midland. I grew up in Midland. I was Stephanie Carstairs. My dad was part of the, you know, Russ Howard curling era. So I remember growing up in Midland, you know, when we would give our last name, a unique last name, people would say, oh, you know, we know your dad. And I never knew why, but that was what a big part of it. And I grew up dancing. Not until a later age did I take it on as sort of my primary activity. I was a figure skater in Midland, and I kind of took dance on the side, and in the high school kind of switched over. And I loved sports. My parents were awesome at putting us in like arts activities and sports activities. You know, we did a little bit of everything. And I went to university planning to be a teacher or a lawyer. Those were my goals. I always wanted to be a teacher. I always loved working with kids, but I thought I was super interested in the idea of being a lawyer. So, you know, varied interest. And at the last, I couldn't decide what I wanted to study. I was looking at everything, and I decided to go for a Bachelor of Fine Arts and to do a dance degree. And I thought, you know, I can use that for law school. I can use it for teachers college. I can use it to be a choreographer, to do whatever. So I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, which led me to teachers college. I ended up deciding to be a teacher, planning to be, I loved kindergarten, grade 1. Like that was my goal, or high school. That was sort of how I phrased it. I want to work at the beginning or at the end. I can teach dance at the, you know, or I can do literacy at the young ages. And I went to OISE at U of T for Teachers College and loved it, loved the amazing mentors that I met along the way there. And that was my plan, to, you know, teach dance a little bit, to continue to be involved in the studio that I grew up in Midland. And along the way, I met my husband. He was an engineer, and he was a little more established in his career than I was. And having him by my side is what led me to be fortunate enough to take a jump. And we decided, you know, our second daughter was about 6 months old when we decided to sort of open a studio without a lot of planning, or like it always had been a dream, but never a dream that I imagined doing. Like I thought, well, that would be cool. It'd be cool to have my own studio. And that was as far as it had gotten. You know, well, that would be cool. You know, and maybe when I'm, you know, when I'm older and, you know, on my summers off from teaching, like, you know, you sort of spitball. And we kind of just jumped in. I was so fortunate. My parents were really supportive. My in-laws, everyone helped us. We got, you know, papers in June and opened in July, and like we worked, you know, around the clock to get things going. I definitely had much more of the artistic side. I had all the ideas, you know, for working with parents and working with kids, and not a lot of the business side. So I would like to say this is my 10th season, and I'm learning still. Every year I learn an incredible amount of the business side, and once in a while I'll sort of chuckle to myself, thinking, well, I definitely didn't know I would ever need to know that, or definitely didn't know that I would ever be doing this side of things. But I've been really fortunate. So we opened, this will be our 10th anniversary season coming up now. And we started with, you know, maybe about 100, 150 kids the first season at the end. And we've gone up, some of our best seasons had over 250 kids. Wow. Usually on average 220, 225. And we're just so fortunate. So now it's kind of neat. some of the students that started with us 10 years ago are graduating from university. I've got one who's going to med school, one doing her master's. And so just to have made a little impact and be able to follow these kids along the way is really cool. So right now the kids graduating high school were part of my first like junior group. So they were sort of 7 or 8 when I first met them, and now they're graduates. So it's been really cool. It's been super fulfilling, super challenging. You know, I won't lie, there's probably a couple days each year where I think, oh my gosh, I should have been a school teacher. I like, you know, or when they have their whole summer off, or, you know, like just different things. But then there's so many days where I think, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I made this leap. I'm so thankful for the choice, the flexibility that it's allowed me, and being able to use my creative side I'm very, very lucky.
Awesome. I love all of that. And as someone who leapt into the entrepreneurial world without without a lick of business knowledge, right? I was like, I just want to like help people and like do stuff. And
I just wanted to teach dance. I wanted to, and my husband was like, you know, there's a lot more to it. But I was like, but I'm really good at this side. I'm really like, I can run the recital. I love that excitement, adrenaline, but definitely I've learned and respected that there is so much more that I was never aware of.
Right. And you know, I love the adage of leading with your strengths, right? So, you know, it's evident as someone who's sort of on the other side, the onlooker, the parent, that the passion is there. The kids are so motivated. The parents are engaged. And whenever there's, and you know, the recitals, all of the different types of things that you do, and I'm not even at all familiar with like the competitive world. That's a whole other thing. And there's no like, oh, and you know what? I noticed that this wasn't done. And there, because it's this sense of, and this is, maybe I'm just speaking for me, but I really don't think that I am. You are doing something that we are so grateful for, and the passion is there, and the other stuff will come, right? Like it's the I's dot, T's crossed, whatever, that stuff it doesn't take care of itself, but it'll get taken care of. What is amazing is how the children and the kids and the teens and everybody's cared for first. Like that is clearly the priority, that everybody feels included, and that there's so much joy that transpires in every class, regardless of where that student is going, what their plan is, whether they show up tomorrow, right? That is evident. And I think that for anybody going into any business, it's not about negating the business end of things. It's not being like, I have passion, it will work.
Yeah.
Yes, you still have to work the other side of it. But if you don't have passion, it won't work.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
And
So
I've learned over the year, I've gotten better every year, I hope. And my goal is to get to where, you know, the customer service side is as strong as the passion and the teaching experience is. But I always, that's, like you said, that's where I feel alive. Like, I don't ever feel like I'm at work when I'm in the room and I'm with children. Like the time goes by so fast. I come home at night, you know, my husband's starting to wind down, and I come home like just talking a mile a minute. I have so much energy. I'm so invigorated. Whatever happened during the day, whatever, you know, stress that might be going on, or, you know, other things outside, when I'm in the room and I'm with like children, but even with teens, like, and you see them, for teenagers, I see them come in and they're able to drop their stress a little bit, or they come in, you know, they've had a tough day. Like it is so hard to be a teen in this day and age. So to be able to give them a release and a place where they leave happier. I see them, they feel lighter. They look lighter on their way out. Right. And I know that that's what the studio was for me when I was younger, how important it was. And with little kids, like just to see them build confidence and to see them discover a little bit about themselves along the way, I always feel so lucky. And I tell parents at the beginning of the year, sometimes they come in and they're, you know, the kids are so nervous and, you know, they're hugging mommy or hugging daddy. And I say to them, don't worry, like to let parents know that is part of it. Like in a few weeks, you'll be trying to pull them off me. Like at the beginning, I'm, you know, easing them away from you, but to see that change and the children start to become friends, the parents become friends. Sometimes we get really lucky where, you know, like-minded parents are in the same group, and just, it's so cool to be part of that. And that's, I think, what I was drawn to about teaching, was I always wanted to be that mentor, be that just influence in someone's life where you think, oh man, that was a really cool part of my childhood. that gave me some happiness, or they helped me believe in myself, or anything like that. So I always think I'm lucky to be teaching dance, but hopefully there's so many other life skills in there, that were teamwork and all the accountability, challenging yourself, all those other life skills that will help kids be resilient and hopefully help them in their future. So.
And there's obviously a lot of information out there about resiliency. What is, why are some people resilient and some people aren't in the same situation? And obviously there's so many factors, experiences, emotions, and perceptions. And what I recognize is it's this idea that it's okay to fail, and society, and I use the P word not often, but this whole idea of the patriarchy that we are immersed in, is there's significant pressure for young children, girls and boys and everybody, to just do this and be small and make sure that everything's done right and in the right order, and everything's supposed to go in the right way. And it took me 40 years to learn how to be messy, how to make mistakes, and be super excited about it. And my experience with my daughter, so she started at the dance school when she was 5. And I vividly remember standing outside the door of the school, and for the first time in her life ever saying that she wanted to do something in front of people. And now, oh my God, she's a raging storm of awesomeness, and is just like, I need to be on stage. Why am I not way more famous than I am this very second? I don't understand. And I talked to her about the idea of confidence, and we used that word because I wanted her to know what she was experiencing, and that it was a powerful, beautiful thing, even though it was unknown. And sometimes it feels, that's, I don't know if I can do this, and be able to step into that space. And I know that she had that growth moment at that early age, and since then has just flourished through this lens of, I can do that. I can fall down. I can get back up. I can fall down. I get back up. I fall down.
Yeah.
Cool.
And learning that balance of, when you're talking about messiness, I think there's such a balance. Dance is one example of it, but it happens in so many things where sometimes it has to be done this way, and that's the way we do it. And other times it can be done any way you want. And I really try to find that balance. Sometimes I want to teach kids, this is the proper way, or this is the safe way, or, this is the way we need to do it. They don't often know that it's a progression. So I need you to learn this way now, and you'll thank me when you're 16, right? And I see it with my teenagers, and they're trying to break some of these habits, right? So I look back and I think, okay, we're going to, teach everybody the right way moving up. But in every class, I want there to be time where they can do whatever they want. And I see kids are like, but what is the rule? What do I have to be following? And to teach them to let go and find that freedom, but then to also be able to follow expectations is such an interesting balance. And I think, really great classroom teachers, like coaches, everybody, that's what you want from your kids. I want them to be able to be in charge sometimes and make their own choices. And then other times know that, okay, there is a reason, and there is a rhyme, even if you don't understand it. And this is what we're going to try to do. And I often think of, I had a fabulous instructor in Teachers College who was teaching art, and it was like to learn how to teach art to primary students. We only had her for a few weeks. She was trying to teach all these different how do you make art work? How do you teach kids? And one thing she said that I've always remembered was, she said, when you go in a school and you look in the hallway and you see everyone's artwork up, and she said, how many times have you gone by and every artwork looks the same? And I thought of every craft that I ever thought, oh my gosh, that's a great craft. I should do that with my students. Everybody's tree is the same. Everyone's branches are the same, or everyone's sky is the same color. That's how I had been taught. And she said, if I ever come to your school, I don't ever want to see them looking the same. They should look however the kids, like art is them finding their way. You can give them a sample, but you have to give 5 samples.
Right.
And I thought, oh my gosh, it's so, that I always remembered. And I thought that was one of the most useful 2 seconds from Teachers College for me. And I think of that with dance, like I don't want them to all be the same dancer. So I have some kids who love to turn, some kids who every minute they can, they go on the floor, they roll, they reach, other kids always want to spin a partner, or like So trying to find a way to, even within a structured discipline, allow kids to find their own voice and to be different and make their own choices. And so we've been, in the later years of our studio, we've been trying to do a lot of improv. And, you know, like you were saying, how music can influence you. So I'm using different styles of music, sometimes a song they know, sometimes a song they don't know, a fast, a slow, and watching how they respond to it. And I tell them there are no rules. You can do anything you like. And some kids that petrifies them, and some kids it liberates them. And sometimes it changes week to week how they feel, right? They loved it last week, and this week, you know, for whatever reason, they're feeling a little more in their shell. And but it's like it applies to so many things of our life too, right? Sometimes we know what we're doing and we know we have to do it, and other times you think I can do whatever I want. Or why do I have to do it that way?
That is phenomenal. That's making me, right before we hit record, I was telling you a little bit about this, these books that I've been reading, and shocker, I read a lot of books when I'm on vacation, which was last week. And
it's wonderful.
And what you just sparked something in me that made me think about how fascinating that particular component is in relation to embodied mindfulness. So the book I'm doing some reading on like how your body is your brain, and the different, you know, you have a nervous system around your gut that is like more influential than parts of your brain. You have nerves around your heart that are sending signals to your brain, all kinds of fascinating things. But this idea that the way we choose over time to habitually carry our body then can hold in certain mindset and thought patterns that can either keep us stuck and or liberate us. So in the same way that, you know, power stance, heart open, chin up makes you feel good, and there's some truth to that, but it's this idea that the way that you hold your body represents for you feelings, and those feelings reside in your body. And you know, from an early age, we are shifting and holding ourselves because of the repeated thoughts that we have. So if we're continuing to not only do certain things, but think certain ways, then our body will continue to hold that space. And just like a woman who wears high heels for 40 years can't put her heel to the ground because it hurts her calf, the same thing can happen in a body over time, and such that it's more challenging to get unstuck out of your mindset because your body is stuck in a certain position in geographical space. And I love the idea that you've offered the students not just to, you know, yes, structure is great, and they need all the moves, and they need to know how to do things safely and how to do things correctly. But at that early time, when they get to free flow into a body position, or again, on the floor, in the air, twirling, moving, stillness, so that they can embody that joy. And at that point, start to make that the habit, right? So I love twirling. I want to be twirling all the time, so that when I'm feeling stressed, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to twirl my ass around the living room. And it's this release, this wonderful release for them. But it's also them learning to listen and trust themselves. And they don't even know that that's happening, but some kids don't trust themselves yet, right? So they see what another kid's doing and they do that, right? Or if you've only ever had someone in front of you, like if you've only ever been able to follow, you've never been given the chance to lead, it's very scary too, right? So having them, even like simple things, having each kid pick a warm-up move, some weeks we do. And some kids, I always try to say, you can pass, right? Like it's okay, because some kids just don't want to, but it's very cool that they learn it's okay to step in, hear my voice, and like do that, right? So improv, as scary as it can be for some kids, it's teaching them so many things, right? And even as simple with the little kids, I say, you know, walk down the room like it's your birthday, like just to relax, right? And they say, okay, now walk down the room like today you have a math test, you know, or like, and finding ways to get them out of their shells, getting them connecting with their feelings through movement. And with the older kids, they don't even know we're doing it. Like we change the style of the music, we change the style of the movement, and getting them to release different things. But I just think it's so helpful for them, and they say, oh, I feel so much better now, right? Like, and I feel it myself after, you know, a great song and great movement, or like all your stress. It's just amazing what movement does for you. Absolutely. You don't even know. and such a gift to offer that that sense without having to include the conscious mind, because as we know, as we age and we get older and the stresses compound because the shoulds happen and what we feel is these external responsibilities show up. And all of a sudden we have like laundry lists of things that need to get done. We can easily forget how we can use what we have in order to get where we want to go. It isn't just about, it's not about that external doing. It's very much about that internal work and the gift of movement. So dance, yoga, meditation, anything,
and
right?
for everyone it's different, right? Like we got a puppy during COVID, and that I never thought, oh, that would, walking a puppy is such a blessing, or I've never, felt that was missing from my life. But having that, need now to get outside in any weather for that 10 minutes. We go around the block, we go around the park, and but that little bit of release of movement, getting out of my rut is so different. And I've been fortunate. My husband's been working from home during COVID. I've always been working at night. He works during the day. And so we've had more time in the last few months than we probably do in a whole year otherwise. But he, it's hard for him being stationary all day. He's an engineer. So we've been going to play tennis on his lunch hours. We're fortunate. We live near a park. And that exercise, I'm happier all afternoon. And I believe he is too. That little bit of stress relief, and we've realized or re-realized again, confirmed for us how important it is, and in whatever form we can get it in, right?
Right.
Some
and
days
it's
not possible to do.
No, and I think that
taking
whether
advantage
you play,
when you can.
Yeah, whether you play tennis or you walk a dog for 10 minutes, I mean, it's part is the shift, and then it can unlock your brain and unlock your muscles where the emotions are getting stuck and where the energy is getting stuck. I'm definitely not an expert on the idea of energy work, but I feel it, so I really get a sense of that. And I know that for not only have you been doing that with your husband, obviously there's been some, personal movement that you've been engaging in. And I'm interested to hear about how you have used that during this time to help you stay centered and grounded. Because obviously for you, the studio is not open, although you were doing the constant online, but there's a huge energy shift when you're not with with the kids, right?
Yeah, so, a huge energy shift for me when we were at home. Not Zoom was wonderful, and I think the biggest goal for me in keeping offering online classes and offering the Zoom was not just to keep kids dancing, but it was to just keep kids connected. And I think talking to parents, especially of teens, the biggest thing they were worried about was that connection. So letting them see their friends on Zoom, letting them feel connected, feel a part of something, feel a little bit connected to me, having a little bit of normalcy, that was so important. And it was wonderful for me. Those days where I had Zoom all day, I was a little bit excited, and the energy kept me going. But it was very different, a different kind of exercise. I'm used to being in the studio, 4 or 5 times, sometimes 7 days a week, and dancing for long times, being on my feet, moving. And when my kids were getting into their online schooling habit, my oldest was on her computer at 9, my youngest, getting up in her jammies, getting onto her Google Classroom. And the days I found were going by so quickly, and I was just missing something. So I tried to dedicate, when they both got logged on, every day at 9, going for a run. And I thought, I live right near a beautiful trail. We live right near the tiny trail. And, years ago when I always said I managed to run a few half marathons just because I'm stubborn. I just don't stop. Not necessarily because I always thought, oh, I'm going to train really properly and do that. And then life happens. But I'm a little bit stubborn, and I have a little bit of endurance from my job and from, being in track and running and things in high school. So it's definitely gotten a little more challenging as I've gotten older, but it was something I tried to commit to for me. And I found having that run from 9 to 10, it was like an escape from my house. It was an escape from being a mom, from, being a studio owner, from all those other things. But I came back just ready to take on the day. It was, I was more patient. I was more excited. I had more energy. I was let's go do this. Let's do this. And the kids are still on their homework. And I'm like, well, this afternoon, I had more energy on those days than any other day. And that's what I think maybe what I was missing most is from that exercise outlet from the studio is I was a little more tired. right? Even though you think, oh, I'm going to be more tired because I've had all the physical activity, but just getting so much energy. It was neat. It was challenging myself to go a little bit further. I downloaded an app to work on my pace and, but just having setting my own goals and feeling kind of proud of myself. So some days if I had a good run, I'd sneak downstairs to brag to my husband for a second. Guess what? And it was neat. It was a neat little thing to do. So now I'm trying to, find a balance of maybe I'm not going every single day, but trying to make sure I dedicate a couple days a week to do it. And we've been trying to get out as a family, get out on our bikes and just find as many ways to get outside as we can. But for me, the running really reminded me it's okay to dedicate that time to myself. Yeah. And no matter how busy I am, I can make it work. Like, that quote about you have the same amount of hours in a day as Beyonce, right? Like there's and I think of that sometimes because, you can fit it in. If you want to, you can, right? Like we are superheroes on those busy days. Somehow we manage to do so much. So trying to think, I can make it work. I can do it.
Absolutely. And I think that there's such a pressure and we are a very fast paced world right now. Everything is very immediate and it's not just millennials, right? It's all of us that are like click and get. Yep. And there's a disconnect between the importance of the long range view of the long-term plan, if you will, like you're playing the long game here. And because the impact of a run every day, although it does have the immediate endorphin kick and it has the jazzing up, but there's always a long-term trickle to those types of, actually to all behavior. So any behavior that you choose to do every single day, no matter what it is having a long-term impact. Mm-hmm. And when we align our consistent and persistent behaviors with how we want to actually be later, the now is nice, but later is better. It compounds. It's almost like logarithmic, right? It just kind of goes and then it shoots up like crazy. So I'm interested, what would you say are some of the long-term impacts? You've been doing this, COVID's been happening for about 4 months now, and you've been committing this time to yourself beyond the initial physical awesomeness and the, oh, yes, I did that. And I'm sparked for the day. What would you say are some of the other ripple effect type impact that you have seen?
I definitely wish I started a bit earlier in COVID. I think, it was so uncertain at the beginning, right? It was so uncertain and obviously it wasn't as warm. It wasn't,
it was March
and things like that. So, but when I got going, I think in end of April, early May, I thought, oh man, I should have been doing this sooner. It felt good, right? So I was glad that I started. And I think it's just been a reminder for me that I can do it. It just gave me a little bit of faith in myself. Yeah. Sometimes we doubt ourselves or it's too late to start that, or, oh, I wish I could do that someone else does. I won't be able to do that. Or, oh yeah, but I'm busy. And I hate to use the busy card, but I do. I'm trying not to, but I've always used that as an excuse, I think. And I felt a bit naked without the studio, without my strange schedule, without working every day, I had a lack of schedule, if you will, but yet it was still lots going on, online schooling and Zoom classes and things. So it was just an uncertain time. So for me, I gained a little bit of certainty. I gained a little bit of structure, and now I can do it. I can pick up something new. I could try something new. And I thought it was a good role model for my girls too, because sometimes they were asking me for things and they needed my help. And I said, you know what, mommy's going to go and I'll be back. If you still need help at 10 o'clock, I can help you then. And I thought I want to show them the importance, obviously, of exercise and things, but also of self-care and of independence and of finding time for myself and things like that, right? So
awesome.
I'm hoping that there was some ripple effects that way too. And yeah, it definitely made me want to be more active the rest of the day. So we've been biking more, and my kids have been being even more active outside of the house. And so I'm hoping it just kind of lit a fire under me that transferred into them too.
I can't say for sure that it has, but that's definitely the way that it works, right? We model. Kids are great mimics and terrible interpreters. So to be sitting on your ass and then telling them to go outside and exercise, not
Which
the same thing,
too.
right? I do it all the time. Right? So just go play, do things.
It's important for you to be outside. I've definitely done that.
But the concept of like a keystone habit is a thing that you align with. You feel it's kind of like low hanging fruit. Like yep, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And you do it and it feels good to do it. But the impact is that it also makes other things a little bit more easy. And so earlier before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about something that is still a work in progress for you. And I would say most women that I talk to is this idea of finding a way to disconnect from the laundry list of what we feel are our responsibilities and delegating. And in my world, when I work with clients, I have this whole thing about delegating, and like you almost need to learn it from a ground up sort of perspective, in that delegating truly means releasing yourself from it, right? Like it doesn't mean you ask somebody to do something and then you come back later and tell them how they didn't do it right. Not delegating. That is still taking ownership. And so I'm interested are you seeing an impact in areas like that in your life where you feel a little bit more empowered to like, no, it's mine and my time and so you go do that. Are you seeing any of that?
Definitely. It's a good reminder for me to, I hate to use the word selfish, but that's what it felt like at first. Is I'm going to be a little bit selfish for this hour. And I know that's not what it is, but as a mom, as a wife, as a woman, a business owner, everything, we feel that sometimes taking that time for ourselves is selfish, right? So reminding myself that that's part of my self-worth, or just that it's an important part of my day. I'm a better mom when I come back from having some time on my own, right? And I even felt that way with my work too. Some days I'm at the studio with my kids, but other days I'm there without them. And, going to work, feeling fulfilled, having all this positive experiences. When I come home, I'm better, or I'm more patient. I'm, more understanding. It's just great all around, right? So I definitely think carving out that time and delegating, maybe whatever else had to happen at that moment was really important, right? And I always struggled with that with my business, letting go of things, right? Asking for help and trying to make things work. Sometimes I had to say to my husband, okay, for a ride, I know you're working, but you just listen for the dog if you hear the dog on the deck, or if Scarlett needs help getting onto her Google Meet, I'm going to need you. And I'm lucky to have that support. But it's a small example of one of the big goals with my studio and with my life is I'm trying to get better, like you said, at releasing things and trusting that support system around me, and really learning to let go, which is hard. And that's something I really admire from other business women and other women in the community. So I'm trying to learn.
And that's all we can do. I mean, every day is a new opportunity to learn something that you didn't know the day before, right? And I just wanted to touch on something you brought up that I think is so important, is the word selfish. And every one of my clients is like, oh, but I can't, I feel selfish, and that's yucky. It's a yucky feeling.
Why is it a yucky word? Why?
Right?
I'm like, why feel bad you need to be someone that, it's hard. We're trying to teach our children not to be it's an interesting thing, right?
I'm surprised that and maybe I just don't know it. So if anybody's listening and they know what the alternate word is that isn't self-care, self-love. I mean, delegating isn't necessarily self-care. It's taking time for me that's about me and gives to me, because I then get to give to others. I think there's something more to that. I mean, I looked up the definition of selfish because it had been bothering me. I'm like, is there any way I could just reframe this and say selfish is great? Like, I've reframed the word failure to make me excited. So can I reframe the word selfish to be like, yes, but selfish in and of itself is truly like, do something for yourself and screw everybody else. It's literally the definition. Well, not literally, it's figuratively the definition. But the caveat is that it goes beyond the fill your cup first or put the mask on first. It's truly about you are responsible for literally one human forever, and it's you, and taking and that idea of love. Like, so yes, self-love is in there, because if you truly loved everything going on here, you'd be like, it's really important and I'm really excited to give to her. And I'm really want to give her what she needs and all of those. It's an onion here. This is an onion, ladies. I really want to like peel this away. So if you have another word that you think is spectacular, then please let me know. Find me on Facebook. Let's make this happen. Let's find the word that.
And being aware, I think, being aware, right? Because when I think about delegating, I think, okay, I have to take the things I don't like and give them to other people to do. Like that with my work, I think, okay, delegating. But then the problem I was running into sometimes is, well, I want all of it. Like I have to delegate. I want all of it. Like I have to delegate my class schedule. I can't teach 7 days a week. So therefore I can't teach everyone's kid. I can't teach every class. Giving up those classes, like it's heartbreaking. I'm like, but I taught them last year. I want to teach them again. Selfishly, like I love that class or I want that class. And so being aware is what's been helping me. I try to think of, okay, well, what are my limits? What is what do I want? I want to be home one night a week for bedtime. Like I want to have one night a week where I'm home before 10 o'clock or, finding what my limits are and then making things fit into that. But I aware is how I try to think of it. I'm aware of what my limits are, what my staff need from me or what my kids need from me, what my teachers need from me, all those other things. But it's so much more complex than just, I'll just give things away. And
it's interesting that you were saying, you give the things away that you don't want to do. And I know a lot of people, and this happened with my husband and I, where you're like, oh, but I don't want to burden them with this task that is so terrible because I don't want them to think I don't like that. I don't respect them or that I don't like them. And then strangely enough, find out that person likes to do that thing. Right. I think that is part of it too. It's not, obviously if there's lots that you want to do and you just can't find the time and the energy because you're not a superhuman. We're all just human beings. But really recognizing that there's multiple aspects of running a business, of running a family, of just existing, that there are things that we're really good at, and to keep us in that zone of genius, which is filling us up constantly, which then gives us more energy to do more of what we want to do. We have to be able to let go of things. And to let go of them.
Strengths, like you're saying, right? Too. So like that's one I've tried to look at it as, what are other people's strengths and where does their heart lie? So trying to allow my staff to have their strengths and to look at mine. Okay, these are the ones I'm strongest at. These are the ones maybe I need to work on this year. So I want to focus on those, or it all ties together. Like it's so interesting what you're saying.
and to be able to, like for me, as I was venturing out into the solopreneur world, and early on you do all the things because number one, you don't have money to be paying others to do it, and you don't even know what you don't know, right? So you're out there like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the marketing, I'm going to make the graphics, I'm going to do the website, I'm going to do the thing, and I'm also going to do the business part, like actually serve clients, and I starting to realize it's not that I can't, it's not even that I don't like, it's that where am I best suited, where is my energy best placed, so that there's more of me and more benefit, more impact, more of the things that I want, right? And absolutely. I mentally and openly invited people in who have talents, who have gifts, who have desires to help me with certain things. And, so to look at existing people in your life and going, wow, okay, so how can I work with you so that we can all grow together? Cool. But even to go beyond that and go, who do I need in my life now? I need someone who is really good at this, some random task that I didn't even know existed until yesterday, and went, shit, I don't know how to do that. So
and to be okay with not having that be something that I'm strong at. Like I've always been okay at identifying my strengths, but I think I've always taken a little bit of, I don't want to use the word shame, but a little bit of, well, maybe I should be good at that. And by giving that away, I'm acknowledging failure, or like, I knew from the beginning, I don't know how to build a website, but instead of hiring someone from the beginning, I thought, well, I can learn. And I thought I can learn how to do this. I can learn how to do this. If I put my mind to it, I can. But like so much I wish I'd known earlier on in my, sole proprietor journey. Like I don't have to do everything. And I don't have to know how to do everything. And it's okay to rely on those other people with strength. I think I had this vision of, well, I'll learn. I'll employ experts to teach me, and then I'll just know how to do it. And looking back, like I really, like you said, acknowledging these other wonderful people in your community, in your circle, and building from those resources, it just makes the product so much stronger, and it gives you so much as well. Like it's such a give and take, like learning from them and from their energy and from their experience. And so that all comes back.
It does. And I think there's something about like surrender in there. So I've hired experts to help, and then and then I'm like, okay, but I'm still going to do it. So I've learned, but I'm still going to do it.
Oh, but my husband would laugh at that. He's like, but why are you still doing it?
Right. So I'm a big advocate. Like, I love the learning, and I'm like, and I'm super capable. Like, I can do anything. And, but really what I actually learn more when I allow them to do it. And then I go, because it's a great product, and I get to learn how it is a great product. I get to work with it. I get to, so my website, I've finally, after 5 years, I'm like, I'm going to hire somebody else to do that now. And I've learned so much just in allowing them to do it, and being like, oh, so now if I wanted to do that again, which I may or may not, I feel more empowered with this information. And it came from me going, it's okay that I'm not doing all the things.
And that's hard, right? I think I was always someone who wanted to do it all. Like, looking back, I don't think my parents gave me that. I think I had that. I wanted to be on every sports team. I wanted to be at every club. I wanted to be on everything. And I remember saying, people saying, you don't have to do that. But I want to. Like, so I know that comes from me a little bit. But trying to acknowledge that is, I'm late to the game to do it, but I'm going to get really good at it. That's my goal.
Well, and I just want to say, everything happens as soon as it can. Like, that's kind of my motto for life.
I like that.
5 years ago, 10 years ago, a year ago, that perspective can't be held because you haven't had the experiences in order to bring you to this place, right? We have to experience in order to know anything. And because I too, just turned 44, and I'm like, wish I'd done that before. Wish I'd done that early. Wish I'd done. And then I'm like, but I couldn't have. So wishing for it, number one, I can't change the past. But then allowing myself to have been the person I was, because then that brought me to this place. Because
I love that idea of it too, right? And I have learned so much, and try to be very conscious of everything every year I try to think of all the things we learned last year I'm so fortunate to have other great teachers. I'm part of a community of other studio owners, and I learned from other fabulous females in the community and mentors. And so you're right. You really do need all those experiences to be in the place to move forward. Right. Yeah. And I love that, constantly learning. And that with COVID, this is the first summer in many, many years where I haven't been working. Like, usually in July I'm teaching summer camps, and I try to squeeze a little bit of time off, but it's very busy, the summer season for me. And this summer, not having it was very different. So I've been able to do professional development. Like, this week I'm in a course with this studio owner that I've always admired from California, and I've never been able to go to California for 3 days to attend her workshop.
Right.
I've always thought, wouldn't that be amazing? And this year, it was on Zoom, and I thought, okay, great. So I've been learning, and, I was able to take another teacher certification course. I'm taking a flexibility instruction course, and being able to find new ways. And the goal in there is, we're all learning together. And there's some people much younger than me, some people much older than me, and they bring all their experiences. And it's so great. It's making me so excited to get back to work. But it's just a really, really important reminder for me that I can keep going, and I can keep learning, and I can change my focus, or I can change my strengths, right? Something that wasn't an area can be eventually, or so that's, you have to find the silver linings during COVID. And that professional development time for me has been wonderful.
That's awesome. And it's funny, and it's not, I don't even know if it's funny. So many people that I've talked to, and it's not about ignoring or not recognizing all of the everything that's transpired through this pandemic. And there is definitely stuff that sucks big time about it. Yep. But we can't continually focus on the past. We have to be able to look forward. And so many of us are looking at the gratitude aspect and thinking about the silver lining. And most women I've talked to, I've always wanted to, I put it off somewhere, and it was like this sort of dream, maybe in another lifetime kind of thing. And then I'm like, I think we actually energetically manifested all of this, because everybody's like, I just did stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I
And
was
just,
able to have the time, or I was able to be in the right mindset to do it, or I know it's so interesting. And I'm always trying to, yeah, find that positive, right? I try to role
yeah,
model for my kids, like, yeah, we're disappointed, but this, like, you don't want them to dwell in that. I want them to acknowledge, okay, yes, these, track and field got canceled. Yes, this summer camp got canceled. And so we can be sad about that. We can miss it, but let's focus on what are all the other things we're gaining.
yeah.
Right. So I've been really trying to do that for them and for myself. And yeah, everyone I speak to, you're so right. There's a minute or two of, oh, can you believe it? And then, well, on the plus side, this is the good part.
Yeah.
Right. So
Awesome.
yeah, and reminding ourselves of that is so helpful.
And to do it in community, I think it's been really valuable to hear how I can listen to someone's story about how it's been hard and how it's been challenging. And then together we can find the way for that person to again, to come back to what we talked about earlier, this idea of resilience. It's not about not going through crap. It's not about rose colored glasses. It's about looking at it and going, this is happened. I felt the feelings and they were big. And this is how I'm choosing to move through, not ignore, not negate, but to move through and learn and grow from, because time is going to keep ticking. For some people that are out there and call it a construct, fine, but it's happening. And I'm going to wake up and it's going to be tomorrow. And I'm going to have to continue to put one foot in front of the other. So I have choices, and I want to be able to look at my experiences and continue to just make choices based on how I want to show up continuously, which is, I think, not only what you've been talking about, but truly what you've been teaching this entire community through the children for now a decade, which I think is super powerful. And again, I'm so grateful that you're part of my world. So
Thank
Steph,
you. I love
you have so much wisdom and you've shared so many different pieces. But what would you say is one thing that you want to leave with the next woman who is like facing the, I'm so busy, I'm too busy, but now I'm not. What is one piece of wisdom that you would share with her so that she can continue to move forward?
I know there's so much, right? That's a great question. I think community. I think community would probably be my suggestion. And I think that comes in any shape or form, because when you don't even know what you're missing sometimes, right? So sometimes, connecting with my elementary school and high school girlfriends just changes my whole perspective, right? Having lunch with a friend, or, like having a chance to visit with my parents, or having, a dialogue with a parent in the lobby at my studio, or talking with a friend who's a teacher. Like, little tiny interactions can sometimes change, like just reinvigorate me, gives me a new way of thinking, right? And sometimes it's maybe because I'm a bit artistic, like sometimes it's a movie or a show, or, that particular episode or that song, something will just inspire me a little bit. So I really think community is a way to get through it, whether it's, for budgeting, or whether it's for scheduling, or whether it's for fitness, or whatever the goal is. I think being part of a community, whether it's one person, 10 people online, whatever, has really made a big difference. So for me, like, I'm part of a dance teacher community, I'm part of a mom community of friends, a neighborhood community, just so many things. I think those have been invaluable resources, invaluable sounding boards, and just good for my sanity. Right? Like, having that escape, having that, getting, and that really does change so much for me. I've learned so much, but helps my perspective. I'm happier afterwards. I feel well-rounded afterwards. And, obviously there's times where you don't get as much of the community as you need, right? You go too long. I think, why did we wait so long to visit? Or why did I wait so long to make time to watch this? But taking that little bit of time in whatever form it comes is invaluable. My suggestion, people are doing with you, right? Carving time out to work with someone, to speak with someone, to engage with someone, to find a podcast that helps you, to find a book that helps you, and share it with other people, right? So women empowering women, or community empowering community, it take the village, those to me are so important and really ring true, I think.
Awesome. That is so, so true. Staying connected and feeling seen and heard, and that you matter because your opinions matter and what you're interested in matters, and you are interested in others, and that reciprocity is very fueling. It's very filling. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, community doesn't mean massive gatherings. It just means that staying connected with the people that matter. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing everything with me. And I look forward to seeing you again in real life. And
in real life.
And so do my girls.
We're almost there.
We're almost
starting, there. So yes, I know. Awesome. I saw a little dancer at the park this morning, and she came over. She wanted to hug me, so we did like a little virtual hug. And her mom said, and I thought, soon. We're going to be back there soon. So
awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I love everything you're doing. So always learning.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Join Dion again next week to learn more about what you can do to go from hot mess to awesomeness.